You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands, with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
Sudeep, we try our best to avoid jargon in the podcast, don't we?
Correct, we do.
And I see your choice of topic today mention a term called GTM.
Yes.
And I'm not sure everybody would understand what GTM means. So, why don't you start with telling us what GTM is and what the topic for today's episode is?
Hmm. Okay. GTM expands to go to market. I think a program like Shark Tank has brought this terminology into everybody's lexicon. Today, we will talk about how your brand choices or your branding choices should drive your decisions about GTM. Usually, GTM is meant to be thought from a sales and distribution point of view. Now, today, I want to make a point that the choice of GTM is actually governed by a lot of other strategic branding choices that you make
Hmm.
rather than just your sales and distribution thinking.
Oh, that's interesting. So, I know you are a great teacher. So I'm going to ask you to begin by defining what GTM is in the traditional sense, and then
Yeah.
how you defining it in on today's episode.
Okay. It's a simple definition to say GTM is usually defined as a pipeline established by an enterprise or a company to carry its products or services to its consumers. Yeah. So that's what your GTM usually is. It's a perfectly logical definition, but I believe that it does not capture all aspects that can actually get delivered via a GTM, and hence I'm putting a marketing twist to it. GTM or go to market is the pipeline designed by an enterprise to reach, engage, and convince its customers or consumers about its product or service and to create sustainable competitive advantage.
Wow. So you actually adding the job of convincing consumers and creating a competitive advantage onto GTM itself and engaging.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you see this happening?
If you now view GTM of various brands that you've seen around you, you will find evidence of this happening. However, more often than not, we don't acknowledge it when we start thinking about GTM, and hence this whole premise. Now, think of for example, a pizza chain anywhere around you. There are a number of GTM choices that you will be making, but some of the more obvious ones are that you will think about, having a consumer facing outlet versus a cloud kitchen, which is in fashion these days. If you think about a consumer facing outlet, do you want an outlet in a high traffic area, high consumer traffic area, or in some by lane? Do you want an owned outlet, or do you want to franchise your outlets? Do you want dine in, or you want delivery, or you want both? And from the delivery component, are you doing self fulfillment or via aggregators?
Okay. Aggregators meaning your Zomato and
Zomato,
Swiggy.
Swiggy, etc. Yeah, so these are various ways in which your business interacts with your consumers, and all of them are legible ways. So how do you make that choice? It does not depend just on the fact that you're opening a pizza outlet. It depends on what your value proposition or what your branding proposition to the consumer is. For example, if Pizza Hut and Domino's were making the same choices, now if you look at your outlets in the market, you would see both of them made distinctively different choices. Some choices are common, some are very different. For example, you will find that Domino's, yeah, now to make sure that they are able to unlock reach, they franchise their outlets. So does Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut, you will find, are fairly large outlets, mainly dine in. I was looking at YouTube the other day and I was trying to find Domino's ads. The Paresh Rawal Domino's ad was about 11, 12 years back.
Yep, pizza are free.
Yeah, Tananananari.
Yeah.
So That is the jingle they made. So I didn't realize it is about 10, 11 years back. It's a 2011 ad, I think. For 10, 11 years now, they've had their focus on delivery. Now they might have taken out the 30 minutes or free promise some time back, but the core focus on delivery has never changed. While Pizza Hut never focused so much on delivery, and their prime focus was always on dining experience as well as on the quality of pizza. And somewhere down the line, if you remember, a lot of people had started giving feedback that Domino's pizza now tastes like a cardboard, etc. So they also did a few campaigns around product
Or they've improved the
quality.
product and
Yes, yes. But their core proposition still remains
delivery.
delivery, खुशियों की home delivery. Therefore, look at the choices that they make. You will find their outlets very, very small, usually.
Hmm.
Very few of them will have an indoor seating space. You will always find a lot of delivery vehicles parked outside.
Right.
They will never deliver via an aggregator app.
Oh, really?
If you order on Zomato, you order on Swiggy, do you know who delivers your pizza?
It's still Domino's?
Domino's does.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So if you try tracking on Zomato, they will say we can't track it because the delivery partner is the restaurant itself.
Okay. Okay.
Now, that's a strategic choice that they have made, that we will control our delivery experience.
Hmm.
We can't leave it to any of our delivery partners. So to them, the delivery is as sacrosanct as a pizza kitchen is to some of the other guys. That's the core focus. That's what branding choices make you do. Only and only if you make your GTM choices which are in consonance with your branding choices, then you will be able to deliver your value proposition to your consumers time after time in the manner that you really want to deliver it. So it is all about owning those critical pieces of GTM which you think are critical to deliver your value proposition, and executing on those pieces of GTM so that your value proposition definitely gets delivered.
That makes a lot of sense. And it also kind of triggers another point for me that the entire cost structure would also be defined by this, right? The fact that they do not have dine-in restaurants should help them manage their cost angle, manage their entire value system within the business
Yeah,
in a different model altogether.
yeah,
And
truly.
that is why even Pizza Hut, when they launched, they tried to do the delivery called PHD, Pizza Hut Delivery.
Hmm.
They really couldn't crack it because the entire system was not engineered for delivery business.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And see, in retrospect, the examples look extremely logical and almost obvious. If I were to push it to say, how should a new business or an emerging brand go about planning their GTM?
Focus on two things. One, these three, four words that I added to the definition of GTM. And number two, I've tried to construct a 2 by 2 matrix which will help make a little bit of decision making easier for startups, business owners who are, now thinking about how do I reconstruct, modify, or construct new parts of my GTM. So I'd like to talk about these two things,
Okay.
and then within that framework I will give you few more examples of brands who have already been there, or some of the brands which are just upcoming, etc., and hopefully that will help all our listeners appreciate the points being made.
Perfect. Let's go.
So we spoke about reach. So reach is about providing access. Then second part was engage. Now when it comes to engage, I just want to stress on the fact that it is about drawing attention of the consumer, and sometimes about involving the consumer. For example, sometimes your brand's need is to make the consumer fall in love with your product. A lot of the times where consumers are not aware of your product or not aware of the category itself, you want consumer to be involved so that they educate themselves about it. For example, if you walk into a mall,
Hmm.
walk into a chroma for example, and if you are looking for speakers, if you've seen, you will find all sorts of speakers lying around in chroma. You will not see Bose lying around anywhere. Bose would have always constructed a small room, a demo room. Bose wants to involve you because Bose knows that the value that they command, the price that they command needs justification. They will make sure that the customer experience is controlled such that the consumer is able to see the justified value. So you start appreciating smaller nuances or eccentricities of some brand when you start understanding what their value proposition is. So that is about involvement. Yeah. So therefore we said reach is providing access. Then there is engage is about drawing attention, involving. Then third is convince is simple. Convince is about sealing the deal. I want to convince you to buy me, yeah, or to buy into the category. Convince could be anywhere. So for example, why would an Apple invest into their own branded stores? They can always ride on chromas of the world, right? There is a reason why brands want to have their own branded stores. Yeah, it gives them an opportunity to involve, it gives them an opportunity to convince. Finally, all of it is delivered at the point of sale, but in various ways.
Got it.
And last part, the fourth one was sustainable competitive advantage, which is about creating preference over various other options that might be available to consumer for the same need state.
And that would be your POS material and all of that, all of it?
Could be anything. For example, you might believe, if you remember, Sharan, when we were in Cadbury, when I was in my Delhi stint 2007, no, rather 2008, we had launched this new brand called Bubbalu. We had just entered into this category of bubble gums, and there were significant number of other players. Our differentiation against the others was that the the quantity of liquid inside was significantly high, and therefore it was supposed to be more pleasurable experience for the consumer. The way we were taught to demonstrate was to go to the shopkeeper, ask him to open the mouth, and then squish the gum in your hand such that the liquid comes oozing out. And if you do it for any other gum, it would hardly give out any liquid. That is creating sustainable competitive advantage. So every brand finds a way of delivering sustainable competitive advantage if they invest properly into their GTM. So therefore, reach, engage, convince, sustainable competitive advantage. These four responsibilities now rest on GTM.
You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitral Brand Expertise, growth consultants to consumer facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to cobcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
Now let's see the deployment of these responsibilities. Imagine a 2 by 2 framework. On your x axis, towards the right of the x axis, is what I call as democratizing reach. So this axis is of brand mission. What is your brand setting out for? Is it wanting to reach everybody? Is it democratizing access? And on the other hand of the axis is bespoke experience. For example, Parle G set out to democratize glucose biscuit access. And on the other hand, some handmade chocolatier would possibly say that I want to create bespoke experience.
Right.
So Cadbury, I think sometime back, set up a chocolate store in
Mm.
Geo World,
The printing, chocolate
the
printing shop.
chocolate printing one. Yeah, so that's
Mm.
bespoke experience.
Right.
You go and pick up your name letters and or your gift, whoever your giftee is. So you pick up that and give it to them. So that's bespoke experience. So therefore, you have to be clear for your brand. What are you for your consumer? What are you trying to create? Are you democratizing access or are you bespoke? Yeah, and you will possibly, hopefully, lie somewhere in this continuum. Yeah, so your x-axis is brand mission, Now your y axis is category structure. Yeah, so on the top of the y axis is well known category, high competition, and on the bottom of the axis is unknown category, low competition. Yeah, and usually that is how it is. A category which is not very well known will have very few people in it. The other day I was listening to the founder of Off Business.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the currently celebrated startup. I found him very very good. So Off Business started their business with commodity trading. Yeah, and then they went into financing these kind of trades, etc., and these businesses. So somebody asked him, why did you get into this kind of a trade? Dealing in gases, metals, etc., does not seem very
Or
attractive.
glamorous.
Yeah, he said that's the basic point. Very few people know about it, so therefore there was no competition.
Ah, okay.
So if you pick up a very glamorous, very glitzy category, you are bound to face a lot of competition.
Right.
I picked up something which was so boring and so alienating to most people. You don't sit and talk about methane in your drawing rooms, do you? So he said that is why I picked it up. So that kind of hit me, that this is a category which is relatively less known and hence no competition.
Perfect.
Yeah, the more known a category is, the more competition you are bound to face. So the now your x-axis is your brand mission, your y-axis is your category structure, and now you've divided yourself into 2 by 2 matrix.
Got it.
Now look at your top right matrix, which is the matrix which is top right quadrant. The
Which is a
quadrant is
high
about,
on access and high on category structure.
correct. So therefore it is where you want to democratize reach, and where the category is fairly well known and there is lots of competition, है ना? So therefore in that particular quadrant, because it you want to democratize reach, your GTM has to give you reach out of those 4 responsibilities that I put up. Now other 3 are engage, convince, sustainable competitive advantage. Out of these 3, sustainable competitive advantage is most important because it is a category structure of high competition. So these are the 2 things that your GTM has to solve for. So now think about a category like a toffee, your regular 1 rupee toffee. Now all of us know the concept of numeric distribution and weighted distribution. Numeric distribution in percentage terms is total your the percentage outlets in which you are present, yeah, out of the total outlets where the category is present. Now weighted distribution is what is the percentage contribution of outlets where you are present to the total category. Yeah, now in candy category or in toffees, usually there is not much difference between weighted and numeric distribution. That is because there are very few outlets which will sell lots and lots of candy, and there will be very few outlets which will sell very few candy. Yeah, it is almost democratically built category, and hence the every player who comes in by and large wants to democratize reach. The only way to do that is by building significant distribution. You need to be available at all kind of points of buying. Even availability online will not do the job for you, because you want to be present whenever there is an opportunity for a consumer to be lured by you. So therefore when you're setting up a GTM for a toffee category, number one, you will invest into some kind of a channel, some kind of a method, direct, indirect, to create significant reach to a lot of outlets. There is no other shortcut to it, unfortunately. There is no magic formula, there is no magic wand there. Now second part is competitive advantage. Now when you're setting up your GTM, you're continuously thinking about competitive advantage. Now how do you deliver competitive advantage in this particular scenario? One of the first things that you spoke about is via POSM, or via your the jar or whatever else is carrying your candy there, the color of your candy, etc., etc., right? Now all of those have to be designed to be suited for your GTM. If you know that you are going to get sold at a pan outlet, and therefore you know how a typical pan outlet looks, hence you need to design your product such that it becomes amenable to front of shop display in the pan outlets, and it is attractive enough to attract attention from everybody who is walking in. Additionally, because you are going for significant amount of distribution, it is unlikely that you will be able to service all of them on your own, and hence your GTM must include wholesale. And since you will include wholesale, the wholesale does not work without creating demand, and hence you will need to create some amount of demand. You will need to invest into branding. So all of these are completely conjoined, they are joint at the hip. All of these choices are getting made all together. So therefore that is one side of the axis, the simplest one. Now let's move a little leftwards. You're still in the category which is well known, many competitors, but now you are moving towards the bespoke side. But you are also in a well known category,
High competition intensity.
high competition intensity. Let's take handmade chocolates for example. Almost every second bakery does handmade chocolates. Toffee side, you could think of things like Candyman eclairs, Cadbury eclairs, etc. What they do.
Right.
Now on this side, when you go about handmade chocolate, bespoke chocolate, etc., one of the examples that comes to my head is Fobel
Hmm.
by
ITC.
ITC.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, while it does not look exactly like an handmade chocolate, yeah, usually your handmade chocolate would be small, irregular shaped or very nicely designed shapes in a box. If you go and look at what Febel says, what it does, almost they position it almost like a handmade chocolate made by a chef with, you know,
Right.
precisely one praline with one almond dropped into it, etc. etc. What are the kind of GTM choices you are likely to make?
Hmm.
You are still in a high competition zone. So, therefore, creating competitive advantage is going to be one of the deliverables of GTM.
Right.
But now you've moved to the bespoke side. So, therefore, reach is not needed. The other two are convince and engage. They need to engage and they need to create competitive advantage. Usually, Fabel will be present largely in ITC hotels, or they will have exclusive outlet in high traffic, high imagery areas. Yeah, maybe in an airport or some kind of a mall, etc. Yeah. Now, in all of these places, whenever a consumer walks in, they control the consumer experience completely. So, therefore, number one, by being present in all of these places, they are controlling the imagery. They're already exuding some kind of imagery. Now, when a consumer walks in, that gives them an opportunity to engage. And with the sort of assortment that they have, they will have an exclusive chef standing there talking about the chocolates, etc. And the quality of that chef will be really good. And you won't find a regular salesman standing there. So, therefore, they are able to engage the consumer, draw their attention in, show them what all goes inside the product, how is it lovely, what are the kind of things that they've put in, and that is where they start delivering their competitive advantage. Yeah, they will force you to say that, see, this is how our chef handpicks one almond and looks at the perfect shape and drops it into the chocolate, etc., etc. And you'd almost feel that this piece of chocolate has exclusively been made for you. So that's how they will create that experience, that's how they will engage you, and then make sure that they deliver sustainable competitive advantage. Hopefully the product delivers it too, and hence possibly you would want to come back to them whenever you have a special occasion next time around.
Got it.
Now let's go towards the bottom side of y axis. Now we are entering into the realm of lesser known categories with low competition. Because there is low competition, there is not much need to build sustainable competitive advantage as of now. Let's go towards right first. So, a category which is relatively unknown but is trying to democratize reach, where the category is still not as defined but they want to go mass. Something like a healthy chocolate, like the whole truth. Now, whole truth has not really invented the concept of chocolate. The concept of chocolate, the lure of chocolate is already there. What they've done is they've created a niche for themselves to say that we make chocolates which don't contain any chemical. They don't say that you will eat my chocolate, you will become healthy.
Transparent ingredients.
Transparent ingredients, etc., natural ingredients.
Right.
Now,
Hmm.
that's a category which is not so difficult to understand, But the problem that we have always been fed with is anything healthy can't be tasty. And therefore, what they need is to convince.
Right.
They have very little need to make you drool over chocolates because you already drool over chocolates. So, therefore, because they are trying to democratize reach, you will find that number one GTM they need reach. Therefore, you will find the whole truth is available across all your platforms, online platforms. They are also not now available in offline stores because they set out for democratizing reach to their category, their product. And the second thing that they need to do is convince. It is a two-step process. Number one, to build conviction, people need to see that you are coming from the right place. So, therefore, they first establish credibility. So, they have blogs, they have content, they have YouTube channel, everything about health. So, therefore, they are building significant credibility that people will believe that, okay, if this guy is talking from a health point of view, he might be right. Task of conviction generation becomes easier if you have built credibility. Their blogs, their work, their YouTube channel, etc., all is part of their GTM. If you look at their packaging also, you will find that the packaging does not look as much like a regular chocolate. There are very few drool shots there. Yeah, so they've tried to disrupt all of the category codes, but they have tried to remain true to their core positioning of being a health expert. Now we are left with one quadrant, bespoke, as well as a category where very few people know about it. There is no competition. Yeah, so this is where you do work which is so specialized, something like a Livofy, for example. Yeah, so now Livofy does umpteen number of tests, etc., on you,
Hmm.
and or brands like those will do tests, etc. They will understand your bodily requirements, and then they will custom design food, chocolates, etc., for you or snacks for you.
Oh, wow.
It's a very bespoke program with significant amount of scientific intervention in it. So therefore, now in this one, they don't need a GTM to create reach at all. But what they need is number one, they want to convince you. They have no need for competitive advantage. There is no competition. So the only thing that they need to do is engage and convince. How will they engage you? They will make sure that you read through a lot of stuff around this. They will keep taking updates from you all the time. They will keep putting markers of progress. Yeah, so there is only engagement and conviction generation that is happening there, and hence you will not find some of these brands, any of these brands, on Flipkart, Amazon, etc., etc.
Right. And in fact, not being there works to their advantage, right?
Correct.
They remain more bespoke.
Correct. Yeah, and all of this, Sharan, applies in B2B also.
Hmm.
So this framework should help you regardless of what kind of business you are in, and you will need to make sure that you understand your brand mission. You need to understand your category structure, and you know what your value proposition is going to be. Yeah, if you know your value proposition, etc., you'll be able to make choices.
This is brilliant, Sudeep. I think when you started off with GTM having to be defined by the brand decisions you previously made, it kind of sounded a little vague, but the examples added weight. But this two by two framework gives you so much clarity. And I'm sure we're going to put this in the notes, right? You're going to give a graph in the notes.
Yes, yes, I
Ah,
will.
perfect. Because that'd be easier to visualize, but it makes so much sense that all the examples came from the same category. And also, not one of the quadrant is a bad quadrant to be in. Depending on your brand strategy, any quadrant could be the right quadrant for you. And that can tell you what you must leverage your GTM for. That's
Yeah,
amazing, Sudeep.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.